Yesterday, this painting was worth millions. Experts crossed oceans to see it. Today, it is worth nothing. Nobody would cross the street to look at it for free. But the picture has not changed. What has? That question was asked by the man who painted it, and it is the strangest part of this entire story. Because in 1943, one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany, Hermann Göring, Hitler's own second-in-command, handed over roughly 200 stolen Dutch masterpieces in exchange for a single painting. A lost Vermeer, he believed. Priceless, he believed. He was wrong. It was a forgery. Painted not in the 17th century, but in a quiet Amsterdam studio by a bitter, failed artist named Han van Meegeren. This is the story of that painting, the man who made it, and the trial where he had to prove, under threat of death, that a masterpiece the whole world believed in was nothing but his own invention. Look at what Göring believed he was buying. Christ with the Adulteress. A somber biblical scene rendered in heavy shadow. Christ standing among a small crowd, the accused woman kneeling before him, her guilt and her forgiveness caught in the same frozen moment. It looked old. It looked devout. It looked, to every eye that mattered at the time, like the work of Johannes Vermeer of Delft. By the early 1940s, Göring had built an empire of stolen art. Paintings looted from Jewish collectors and conquered museums across Europe, stacked by the hundreds in his private galleries. But even a man drowning in plunder wanted something rarer, a Vermeer. At the time, scholars believed only around 34 authentic Vermeers existed anywhere in the world. To own one was to own a piece of history itself. So when this one appeared, Göring did not hesitate. He traded away nearly 200 paintings plundered from occupied Holland for this single canvas. He believed he had made the deal of a lifetime. But to understand how a fake could fool an empire, you have to understand the man who painted it. Henricus Anthonius van Meegeren was born in 1889, sent by his father to study architecture in Delft. But architecture never held him. Painting did. He had a rare gift for imitation, so rare that he won a gold medal for a drawing of a church interior rendered entirely in 17th century style before he had even finished school. For a while, it seemed the world might reward him for it. He held exhibitions. He sold paintings. But the art establishment of his time had moved on, chasing modernism, chasing the new. Critics looked at his careful, old-fashioned technique and dismissed it as derivative. Talented, they said, but irrelevant. Van Meegeren did not take rejection well. He began drinking. He grew bitter, convinced that the men who called themselves experts could not actually tell a masterpiece from a fraud, that their reputations rested on nothing but confidence and prestige. He did not simply want money. He wanted to prove they were fools. And slowly, quietly, he began building the instrument of that revenge. The hardest part of forging a masterpiece was never the brushwork. It was time. Fresh oil paint stays soft for decades before it fully hardens, and any expert can scrape a fingernail across a canvas to check its age. Van Meegeren spent 4 years solving this single problem alone. His answer was chemistry. He mixed his pigments not with oil, but with an early synthetic resin called bakelite, then baked the finished canvas in an oven until the surface hardened into something that could pass as 300 years old. To go even further, he took genuine 17th century paintings of little value and scraped away the original image with pumice and water, carefully preserving the fine network of cracks in the old paint. Then he painted directly onto that aged, cracked surface. But his true stroke of genius was not technical. It was strategic. Instead of copying Vermeer's familiar domestic interiors, the paintings hanging in museums that any expert could compare, he invented something that did not yet exist. An early religious Vermeer, styled after Caravaggio. Scholars had long suspected Vermeer travelled to Italy as a young man, with no proof. Van Meegeren simply gave them the proof they were already hoping to find. In 1937, Van Meegeren's invented Vermeer, The Supper at Emmaus, was placed in front of Abraham Bredius. 83 years old, the foremost Vermeer scholar alive, so trusted within the art world that colleagues simply called him the Pope. His word was rarely questioned. Bredius did not question it. He wrote in the Burlington magazine, the most respected art journal of the era, that he felt himself in the presence of Vermeer's true masterpiece. Different from all his other work, he said, and yet every inch of Vermeer. That single sentence was enough. The painting sold for a fortune and was placed in a Rotterdam museum, where it instantly became the star of the entire collection. Crowds came specifically to see it. Van Meegeren later admitted that his original plan had been to reveal the fraud himself, to walk into the spotlight and humiliate Bredius publicly for being so easily deceived. But once the money arrived, and it arrived by the millions, his plan quietly changed. Why destroy a fraud so profitable? He had already proven his point. Now, he simply let it keep paying him. Emboldened by success, Van Meegeren did not stop at one forgery. Over the following years, he produced more. Each one sold quietly to private collectors and museums. Each one earning him sums that would equal millions of dollars today. A failed painter, once dismissed by every critic who mattered, was now secretly one of the wealthiest artists in the Netherlands. Then came the war, and with it, an offer no one could have predicted. Field Marshal Hermann Göring wanted a Vermeer for his private collection. Van Meegeren, through an intermediary, gave him one. Christ with the Adulteress, exchanged in 1943 for nearly 200 paintings looted from occupied Holland. The irony was almost too perfect to invent. A struggling artist, once starving for recognition, was now living in mansions bought with forged masterpieces, having personally swindled the second most powerful man in the Third Reich. He believed he had gotten away with it completely. He had no idea the war was about to end, and with it, everything he had built. In 1945, Allied forces swept through Austria and found Göring's private art collection, hidden away inside a salt mine. One small piece of a plundered empire built on the ashes of occupied Europe. Among the stolen paintings was Christ with the Adulteress. Investigators traced its sale back to Amsterdam, to a quiet, unremarkable man named Han van Meegeren. He was arrested almost immediately, charged with collaborating with the enemy. Selling a Dutch national treasure to a Nazi leader was, at the time, a crime punishable by death. Van Meegeren now faced an impossible choice. He could stay silent, protect the myth he had spent a decade building, and hang for treason. Or he could tell the truth, admit the painting was never a Vermeer at all, and risk no one believing him. Van Meegeren chose the truth, and the courtroom did not believe him. No one could accept that a mediocre, forgotten painter had fooled the greatest experts in Europe. So the court gave him one chance to prove it. Under police guard, supplied with the same materials and techniques, he was ordered to paint another Vermeer, live in front of witnesses. The result was Jesus among the doctors, painted stroke by stroke as evidence. It worked. The confession that should have ended his life instead made him a folk hero, the small man who had humiliated a Nazi with a paintbrush. At his trial, Van Meegeren offered the line that would outlive him. "Yesterday," he said, "this painting was worth millions, and experts traveled the world to see it. Today, it is worth nothing, and no one would cross the street to look at it for free." But the picture has not changed. What has? The court reduced his charge to forgery. 1 year in prison. He never left it alive. The same canvas, once priceless, once worthless, and never actually different at all. Van Meegeren's confession did more than save his life. It forced the entire art world to confront an uncomfortable truth: that reputation and confidence had been mistaken for expertise for far too long, and that paint alone could no longer be trusted without the science behind it. Value, it turned out, was never really in the brushstrokes. It was in the name attached to them, and the belief we chose to place there. So what do you think truly makes a masterpiece? The hand that paints it, or the story we decide to believe about it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for looking this closely. Like and subscribe, and we will uncover the next one together.